G'day. Most people have heard me mention Grain and Grape over the years. It's my local home brew shop. Although I get a lot of my hardware from Kegland and Keg King, most of my grain and hops and ingredients are from Grain and Grape. Now, I've been going to Grain and Grape for a long time. I wouldn't like to guess. It's got to be over 10 years, maybe 15 years. They used to be in Maribyrnong before they moved down to Yarraville. So it was a long time ago. And anyway, I was there for System Wars, part of Good Beer Week this year. I've been going to System Wars for a long time too, but that's another story. I haven't uploaded any footage this year. I was planning on it. That will come with the IPA video. Some of that, I guess, and maybe some on the end of here if I don't rave on for too long. I was in there at System Wars and I looked up on the shelves and I went, what's that? I haven't seen that before. And it was an all grain kit. I didn't know. I've been going there for all those years and I didn't know they sold kits for beginners, or not even for beginners, just people that like that certain beer, or they want to try it, or you know, they haven't got a recipe ready when they turn up and they want some ingredients. This was what I saw. Hello, HOPERATOR. All grain kit. There's the other side of the box. So I was speaking to John, the owner, and I said, I've been coming here all this time and I didn't know that you made these kits. Maybe there's a lot of other people that don't know. Why don't I do a video and give you a bit of promo for them, to help him out and to help you out, because we need a kit like this. So I'll just open it. Instructions, always good to have. Comes with your bag of grain. You can get it pre-milled, or you can mill it yourself. I chose to mill it myself. I'm feeling lazy today. I wish I had got them to mill it. It also comes with hops. Simcoe, Columbus, Centennial, Amarillo, Warrior, a small amount of salts for Melbourne brewing water, and I chose to get some US-05 yeast to use with it. They do have a little bit more detail on the Grain and Grape website. I'll leave a link for that down below. But basically the recipe is 96.5 Joe White Pilsner and the rest Carahel, 5 grams of calcium sulfate for your mash water, 25 grams of Warrior at 60, and some finings at 5 minutes before the end of boil. Then you add the Amarillo and Centennial at the end of the boil, and you dry hop with a Simcoe and Columbus. And they recommend Y yeast 1056 or Sapphire US-05. It's for a batch size of 20 litres, with a brew based on a brew haste efficiency of 70%. Depending on how I go crushing this, I could probably push that a little bit. I might be able to get 21 litres, 22 litres out of it. We'll just see how we go. This isn't going to be a highly detailed brewing video. I've done a lot of those. It's more a review of the kit and see how it goes. I am wet conditioning just because I think it works better with the Robo Brew. And since this is about 5.5 kilo of grain, 2% of that is 110 grams of water. Now I'm going to start with 20 litres. It might be a little bit more than I need. There's my salts. I'm going to put the salts in first. I'll give that a quick mix up. This is different salts to what I'd normally use, but I'm following the kit. Only slightly different. Oh, if I didn't mention it before, It calls for a 65-degree mash, so I started at about 70 degrees. My strike temp, and we should get close to 65 by the time I get this grain in it and stir it in. Those temps can vary whether it's summer or winter. You know, we're in the middle of winter now, so 70 to 65, probably about right. You can see this is quite thick. I probably couldn't have gone much less than 20 litres. It will settle down a bit. Now I'm just going to let this sit for 5 minutes. Then I'll come and give it another stir. Actually, I'm just going to make sure I get a good stir now. Make sure I haven't got any big dry spots. Just going to let that sit for 5-10 minutes just to settle and make sure it all gets wet before I turn the pump on. I'm set at my 65. I'm going to turn off the big element for now. I just don't want it coming on and cooking anything at the bottom. I'll leave the 500 on. But that's been 5 minutes. Excuse the neighbours yakking. Just give it a stir. It's looking pretty good. I'll just get the recirc on a bit, eh? We're about 10 minutes in since before. You can see we're backing up a little bit. I've only got a slow flow, but that's because I've got quite a thick mash, but that's okay. I can back it off more, I can give it a stir. I have stirred it once already, but it seems to be settling about there at that speed at the moment. It is now nearly 12:30, so we're over halfway through. I did stir it before, but we've sort of settled down now. You can see the water levels dropped a little. That means we're getting better flow. We're starting to clear up a little. So I could raise the flow if you wanted to. You could just leave it as it is and not play with it, and you'd probably be in a better position, but I'm just going to up it a little. Let's see how we go. If it starts backing up again, I'll back off. Just getting close to the end of the mash, so I thought I'd take a quick conversion test, iodine test. Get a little bit of wort into a cold bowl so it cools down fast, and a drop of iodine. Now if that goes black, conversion hasn't finished. If it stays yellow, conversion's done. It's looking pretty good. You try not to get any pieces of grain in there, because if you can get a piece of grain, it can affect it. But I'd say that's pretty good. I'd say our conversion is complete. We're looking nice and clear. Alright, so I'll put this on to 10 minutes mash out now at about 76 degrees, or 15 minutes by the time it heats up at least. And she's done. I'm going to sparge with the hot water that I've heated up in my Brewzilla. You can use whatever method you like, of course. So I sparge with 10 litres. I started with 20, sparge with 10, and we'll just see how that goes. Now, I can see after sparging with that 10 waters, we're about the 25 litre mark, which is probably perfect for the recipe, but I want to get at least 26 litres. So after the boil, I'll probably get out about 20 litres into my fermenter, but there will be a few litres left in here. Now that might throw the numbers out a little bit. I might be a little bit down, but that's just the way I'm going to do it. I could tip up the unit and get that litre or two out of the end, but I'm just going to push another litre through with this. So we're up to the 26 litre mark before we start the boil. That's my choice. I'll see how the numbers go. I can see it's getting up close to the 7 gallon mark. And 26 litres is just under that 7 gallon mark. I think that'll probably do. Oh, I could go a little bit more. I might just let it drip a little bit more. Alright, that'll do me. We're nearly at the 7 gallon mark, which means the 26 is just probably right on that water line. So just coming up to the boil. I'll wait till it gets good rolling and I'll take a reading. We're nearly there. The reason I wait for the boil to take the pre-boil reading is just to make sure it's all mixed up. I'll just take a quick reading before I put the hops in. I did sparge a bit more. My pH was a little high, so I'm not sure how conversion went, but we'll have a look. I don't have a pre-boil reading that this should be. Anywhere over 1050, and I'm going to be quite happy. Oh, we're a bit down by the looks of it. I think we're about 1047. Since I did over sparge, and I'm a little bit down on my reading, I'm going to let it boil for 15 minutes before I start the timer for the boil. That'll just get me a little bit higher gravity. Yeah, I'll wait till 10 to 2. Then I'll start the timer for 60 minutes. As you saw, I got full conversion. So it's just because I used a bit too much water. I was pushing my luck. Of course, this will be different for all systems. This kit isn't made for Brew or Grainfather. It's just a recipe that you can do it at esky or whichever way you wanted to do it. On the stove, brew in a bag. So you can just run with it. I could have just ran with it, but I'm just going to let it go a little bit just to get that gravity up a little bit higher. I could add sugar. There's no harm in it at all. Or if you're worried about sugar, you could add light dry malt, but sugar is fine. You could add 200 grams of sugar or something and that'll bump it up a few points. But I'm just going to leave it, as I said, and we'll see how it goes. So we've steamed up a bit. I'm not used to this full boil too. Like I'm usually right up full and the boil's a little bit softer. So it's going to be interesting to see where everything turns out. But we'll try and take another reading. Been about 15 minutes. Cool that down. It's not going to be a very clear reading, that one, but anyway. Alright, we're sitting at about 49. I think I'm just going to run with that. Now, you can see all the packs are clearly marked. This is 25 grams of Warrior. That's 60 minutes. The time is now 1:53, and there goes the Warrior. You could use a bag if you're using a plate chiller, or if it's just your want. 10 minutes before the end of the boil, I'm just going to add Werflock. Okay, we're just about to hit the end of the boil. Got our flame out hops, or end of boil hops, 30 grams of Centennial, 30 grams of Amarillo. I'm just going to put these in now while it's boiling and then turn off straight away as soon as I get them in. That'll just wait, I'll just make sure that they're mixed up a bit. And that's all of them. Don't leave any behind. And now I turn off the elements. I'm just going to let that settle for 5 minutes. Get this chiller started. Depending what you want to do, you could run some through your chiller now into sort of half whirlpool, but I'm actually letting it settle. I know the hops are mixed in there and they're just settling down. Whirlflock will do its job a little, what it can do in the Robo Brew systems, because I'm still pumping out from the bottom anyway. But we'll let it go, 5 minutes. I'll go and turn the hoses for this chiller on, get it ready, and we'll go straight into the Firmzilla. So in the end, I'm just over 19 litres, but I've got that there, which I collected at the start, which is a good 250 ml, and plus, because of the way I'm taking it out of my chiller, that chiller will be just about full of wort too. I could sort of tip it up and tip it in, but I'm not going to bother. And without a doubt, there'll be still probably a litre or so in the bottom of the Robo Brew. So it is why I was trying to push it a little, the amounts, because I know how much is going to be left in the Robo Brew and how much is going to be left in my chiller. And when I clear the line, when I clear the first hop matter out of the line before I put the chiller, or the wort going through the chiller into the Firmzilla. That's just cold break and proteins and stuff. So anyway, I'm quite happy with that. We'll take a reading in a minute. I did fill up a, you're going to be able to see it over there, I did fill up a test tube thing. We're sitting at a nice, just over 20 degrees, which is great to kick the yeast off. And in an hour or two, I'll knock it down to 19. So I'm going to dry hop with the Columbus and the Simcoe. I also up the temperature, even though I know by the looks of my reading that I'm just about done. That'll just help it off, help it finish off. It is now Saturday. It was brewed and yeast pitched a week ago Thursday, and it's done. It's done. You can take a reading if you like to double check. I'm going to cold crash this now down to about 2 degrees, or I set mine at, and leave it there for a few days. This is looking quite clear already, but that cold crash will just help the rest of the hops hopefully drop out and clear it up a little bit more. Excuse the fridge noise. I've had the flu, so it's sat here a few days longer than it should have. But I'm not worried about that. It's not so bad when you're in these pressure vessels. One, it's cold, the hops are cold, so you're not going to get the grassy thing if you're worried about it. And it's only Wednesday now. I think I dry hopped them on the Tuesday, so they've been in. It's been 8 days today. But it's been cold crash since Saturday. So it should be well and truly clear. And there's no oxygen in there, of course. So everything's fine like that with these vessels. I'm just going to get it into the keg and close transfer. I've already got a video about that. And so we'll see you when it's kegged. Okay, there it is. Hello, HOPERATOR. Your grain kit from Grain and Grape and Brew Shop. Now it's been in the keg a couple of weeks now, but it was always pretty clear. There was a little bit of haze from the dry hop, but besides that, it's nice and clear. Now I will say, when I first tried it, it was quite an assertive bitterness. But that's mellowed out now, which is, you know, what usually happens. And it's mellowed down quite nicely. It's a very old school style IPA, a traditional, I should probably say. But it looks great, tastes great. There isn't too much more to say about it. Very handy if you're stuck for a recipe or you're a beginner. You can just drop in and get the whole kit ready to go. There's still a real strong bitterness there, but that's like a proper IPA should be. I think we're getting used to these days IPAs that they're not quite. The IBUs might be there in theory, but when you drink them, it's a bit softer. This is a nice, assertive IPA. It does get a lot of bitterness from that big 60-minute charge, whereas most IPAs I brew these days only get maybe a third at the most, even less bitterness at the 60, and it's all from late. But, you know, I'm not knocking it. It's a beautiful looking IPA. It's been going down very well in this house. It's hard not to have one every night. I love a good IPA. And I haven't brewed one as traditional as this for a long time. So a big thanks to Grain and Grape for giving me the kit to review. Thank you very much. So as I said, if you're a beginner or you're just stuck for time and you want to brew on the weekend or something, you can go and grab a kit like this. It doesn't have to be this one. They do have several other kits to choose from. Then you pick your yeast, what you want to use with it, and off you go. Everything's done, ready for you. They'll grind the grain if they want, or mill the grain for you if you want. This isn't, I should mention, this isn't a paid review. They did supply the kit, but that's as far as it went. Cheers.